We're going to start this episode off by installing a new exhaust. While I was out of town in San Antonio, I saw on Facebook Marketplace a set of dual mode mufflers from a '09 Corvette for sale. They were listed pretty cheap, so I decided to go ahead and grab them. The mufflers fit in the trunk, and I just had to lower the window to put the X pipe in the front seat, and I was able to make it to a local muffler shop to get them installed. My '05 Corvette isn't set up from the factory for the dual mode mufflers, so we'll have to address that later. While I was there, I also had to make a quick run to the Three Twisted Sisters. The entire time I've owned this car, the shifter has been all mushy and falling apart like this, and I kept on putting off replacing it, trying to find an aftermarket shift knob that I liked. But ultimately I wasn't able to find one, so I just paid for a stock shift knob, even though I felt it was really overpriced, and installed that one. I pulled all the spark plug wires and spark plugs out to do a compression check, and in the process I broke several of the spark plug wires, so I decided to just go ahead and replace the whole set. Here's the compression numbers I came up with. I was just kind of curious because this engine had so many miles on it. It was time for another oil change, and I decided to go ahead and replace the fluid in the transmission and the differential as well as the engine. I think it's kind of odd that the manual transmission uses ATF, and I was sure to let the guy at the counter know when I bought the fluid that I don't have an automatic. When I decided to do this, I didn't realize the 2005 had a unique 1 year only differential housing that was different than the '06 to '13 C6 Corvettes. You aren't able to undo the drain plug because the leaf spring is in the way. I decided instead of removing the leaf spring, just to put the transfer pump in the differential and pump out as much as I could. After resetting the oil life, we were good to go. Next, I'm going to replace the driver front wheel bearing. It's pretty simple to remove, but it is annoying that you have to separate the lower ball joint from the hub. While I had everything apart, I noticed the tie rod ends were in pretty rough shape, so I decided to go ahead and replace those too. I went with Timken for the wheel bearing, as I've always heard good things about this product. I went with Moog for the tie rod ends because I've always heard that's another brand that has really good quality. One thing about using a pickle fork is I always tear the boot. So here I am a week later replacing the boot after it came in the mail. These energy suspension ball joint boots come in a set of 4, 2 for the upper and 2 for the lower, but don't worry, they'll come in handy later. Now I'm finally going to get around to installing the controller that will activate the dual mode mufflers. The mufflers are vacuum operated, so you start by cutting off the tip of a little port on the back of the intake manifold. It's pretty hard to get to, so it takes a while, but then after you've done that, you run a vacuum hose from the back of the intake underneath the car to the controller wherever you decide to mount that. Then you run a smaller vacuum line from the controller to the valves on the muffler. I decided to mount mine behind the carpet on the back of the trunk, and once the carpet was installed over it, you couldn't see it. After that, you just run the wires under the carpet to the passenger footwell, where you can plug it into the fuse panel. Alright, that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks for watching.